the edge. Okay, so thank you very much. In case you hadn't noticed, I've written a book. And so obviously I don't want to say too much today or none of you will buy the book. So I'll just say as little as possible. Also, because I've only got 20 minutes. In fact, let me just look at my watch so I know how I'm doing. Okay. So yeah, I've written a book. It's about the Bristol pound. I took over the Bristol pound as managing director in 2018, which was when it was already 2 years into its final decline. But let's just, for those of you who don't know, I expect you do know, but very briefly, it was a localization currency. It was sterling backed. The aims were to reduce carbon dioxide emissions through transportation by localization, and also to increase velocity, local multiplier effect, to trap money within the community, to create local wealth building. So also, right from the get-go, it was supposed to have a mutual credit element. We never got that off the ground, but the aim was to add liquidity, if you like, and to reduce reliance on banks. So those were the aims. What did we achieve? Well, that's a network picture from, I think, 2015. Oh, it actually looks like 2016 because it's already beginning to fall apart around the edges. We achieved lots of things. We had digital and paper money from the get-go. We were the first currency to achieve that. We had local taxes that were payable in the local currency. We were the first to achieve that. We were pretty big for a local currency. Within 3 years, we had 600 businesses, plus another couple of hundred who were just taking the paper money officially. Whether they did is another matter. There were a lot of free riders. And probably about 2,000 users of digital money across the system. And worldwide fame. You know, frankly, the only reason I'm here is because we got fame well beyond perhaps what we deserved. And we were very lucky with that. We had some great marketers. And what else did we achieve? Well, none of our aims. You know, did we localize? Well, you know, we localized some stuff, but it's very hard to say whether any of it would have happened anyway. Perhaps all we did was make visible some stuff that was already happening. We didn't really shift, you know, like if you were to measure CO2 emissions, would they have gone down? No, we couldn't see any dial movement on that. Did we make local people wealthier? No, you know. So let's be realistic. We achieved very little. And then we failed, right? Then we fell apart. We couldn't get any more funding. We couldn't keep going. We never got to the stage where we were viable as a currency. We never brought in enough money to cover our costs. And so why didn't we grow to that stage where we could be, where we could, one, create the impacts we were trying to create, and two, be a viable system that, you know, in our own right? The main thing we did was we kept people away. You know, we really stopped people joining us, because what we said was, if you think just like us, come and join in. And there we go. So we got like 0.02% of the population who thought just like us. They came and joined, and nobody else joined because they didn't think like us. Right? It was a really crap marketing message. And I think it's not just local currencies that fall into this trap. It's also Extinction Rebellion, it's Black Lives Matter, you know, it's many social movements. People think, hey, you know, we'll do this thing, we'll say, you know, come and join us, and then people come and it'll just grow because it'll be cool and everyone will understand. And no, it doesn't happen, right? We create ideological barriers, and that's what we did really effectively. We also made a decision because of the local tax thing. We really wanted to have the local authority on board, and because of that, we needed to be regulated. And we had chosen Cyclos, which wasn't going to work with regulation, and therefore we had to have a local partner. We chose the credit union, and that meant we suddenly didn't own any of our data. And so we couldn't do things like say, you know, this is the business of the month with the highest turnover of Bristol pounds. We couldn't do any brokerage work, like go to businesses who are sitting on the currency and say, could we help you use it? You know, we couldn't do anything like that because we couldn't see the data. And you know, the other key reason, by the way, there are lots of reasons, and if you want all of them, you'll have to buy the book. it was a hassle for businesses. It's like, oh my God, we've got to accept the paper money and the digital money, and there's an app and there's an SMS system, and then everything, we have to set up a special button on the till, and then we have to move money about, and it takes 36 hours for the money to go from my credit union Sterling account to hit the Cyclos account. It was just a real hassle. And then we were saying to businesses, hey, and spend it on within your business network. And they're like, what? We've got to persuade other businesses to join this shit network as well. It's like, it's a real problem, okay? I'm telling it with humor, obviously, but there are serious points here. There were other problems. We got lots of money. I mean, we were really lucky. We had lots of money. Initially, we had money thanks to a project Stroh did with the DigiPay. But all the money we got in was not to do the Bristol pound. It was all to do something else. Mainly, in fact, it was around mutual credit, but it was also money about having conferences and money about setting up interoperable systems. There were lots of these ideas were already there, and we kept being given funding to do those things, not to grow the Bristol pound and really do that job well. And so we were always kind of stretched too thin. And as well, so with the mutual credit, which we spent so many years trying to get off the ground, businesses didn't want it. They didn't have a need for it. They could get bank loans. They didn't particularly want to trust other businesses. We tried lots of different ways of messaging it. We never got it off the ground. And because of that, there were then internal disagreements with the board. So we had, by this stage, several years in, got a load of new people on the board who weren't steeped in that initial thinking about what this was about and didn't really understand the mutual credit, which was, by the way, a kind of a credit clearing circle. I know, as Matthew Slater says, it's too loose a term, so it was a credit clearing circle. Oh, I forgot. I was going to also mention something Paolo said right at the beginning when he introduced one of his slides, and he said, disclaimer here, there is no scholarship in this slide. I'd just like to make it really clear that there is no scholarship in any of my slides, just in case you were concerned that there might be. So there were these internal disagreements between the board because they were saying, well, we just got to grow the Bristol pound. But the founders who were mainly doing the work at this stage were saying, well, no, we've got to do mutual credit. That's what we're being paid to do by these funders. So there was just a lot of misunderstanding and disagreement. So we started to think, what do we do next? Because by the time I'd been in the job a year, I realized I cannot save this. I've been brought in supposedly to save it. And it's like a year in, I'm not going to be able to do that. So either we kind of give everyone their money back and just go away with our tail between our legs, or maybe we spend a couple of years thinking, okay, this didn't work. What could work? There's still plenty to do. There's still a meta crisis going on. Let's try and do something useful. And so my lessons from the Bristol pound experiment were, number one, let's separate the ideology from the marketing message. Let's create a business model that works without the ideology and that onboards people at scale and is a solid thing in its own right. And the idea for that was a non-profit e-money payment platform that would generate fees, and we would be non-profit, so any surpluses we generated through offering this payment platform, we would give to local voluntary sector service providers. This was a real, a win all round. The local government was interested in that because they're very reliant on voluntary sector services to deliver all the things that once upon a time municipalities were supposed to deliver, and they can no longer afford to deliver. It was popular with small businesses. Like, of course, we want to do something local. We want to support our local voluntary sector partners. It was popular with the big out-of-town chain stores who were going to be vital for that mass onboarding. And they were very keen. It's like, hey, at long last, we can prove that we care about the local the local community where we have put our stores in. So this was a value proposition that worked within the current paradigm and was going to enable us to onboard at scale, which would mean that we could then potentially create some impact. So then on the side of it, completely sort of hidden, if you like, from the marketing message, we would be trying to sneak in our key purpose, which was basically behavior change, as a kind of game. And I know there are a lot of problems with gamification. I'm talking about something much more like a Fitbit, where a Fitbit is nice. It helps you motivate yourself to keep fit. It's telling you, am I doing well at keeping fit? Maybe with your friends, you can boast about how many steps you've done today. It's not the kind of game where you're in it to win, right? It's a gamification to make it fun and to help you understand your own impact. And we were thinking this could be like a Fitbit for your social and environmental impact. So that was the aim. And that this would be a kind of experiential learning game, right? That would then create impact because lots of people, hopefully, would be trying it out because it would be fun. Just to go back to this idea that this was about behavior change. The Bristol pound, the original thing, was about behavior change. It was about saying, instead of shopping at Tesco's, please shop at local stores, right? That's a change in behavior. A lot of people, and there was a question earlier about how do you incentivize something? And I've read a fair bit of stuff now about behavior change. And actually, financial incentivization is not actually the key determinant of behavior. Actually, this is Andrew Darnton's ISM, individual social material drivers of behavior. And what it says is, well, actually, I'll come to what it says in a moment. Let's just say the idea is that if we can change enough individuals' behavior, then we can reach a tipping point, and then we get to societal change, right? That's the kind of theory of change. There are some ethical concerns with this kind of behavior change, right? We don't want to be imposing our will on everybody. Rather, what we wanted was to enable an experiential learning journey through which people try things out and gradually develop their own understanding of, oh, okay, this stuff matters and it feels good to be part of something that's trying to do something positive on these levels. So the ISM model says 3 things determine our behavior. One is our individual self-belief, right? A second is socially what we think other people think of us, how much we think we fit in, right? And the third thing is material, what is actually possible. Like, is there the physical infrastructure, and is there the legal infrastructure that I can do whatever it is? So here's a real problem, right? Let's say one of the behaviors we would like to change is to get people out of their cars, even if they are Teslas, because actually, everyone changing their private car to an e-vehicle is not actually going to fix the problem. What we want is for people to go on the bus, right? So let's take it for example. Let's say there's, a corporate lawyer. She's doing pretty well. She's pretty, pleased with herself. She's worked hard. She deserves her Tesla. She feels like when she is driving around her Tesla, she feels good about herself. She's listening to music, and this keeps her on top form. It means she's going to perform well. So that's her kind of self-belief. She also thinks social. This looks great on the driveway. All of my neighbors are really jealous. And when I show up at a meeting and I say, I'm sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late, I couldn't find anywhere to charge the Tesla, everyone is like, okay, this corporate lawyer, she's pretty hot stuff, and she cares about the environment because she's got a Tesla. And do you know what? With these beliefs, this corporate lawyer is never going to look at the bus timetable and say, could I go by bus? Before she's going to go by bus, several things have to happen. She has to think, I'm the kind of person that only wants to have my due. I don't believe that I should own a private means of transport, or if I have one, I should only use it in emergencies or I really need to. I want to be on the bus with the real people. I'm a mensch. Yeah, this is what we want this person to be thinking. We want them to be thinking, if I had a Tesla, all my neighbors would think I'm a wanker, and I don't want that. And I want, when I go to the business meeting, to say, I'm sorry I'm late. 2 minutes late. It was because I was on the bus and we had to slow down. There was a wheelchair that needed to get on, and it took a little bit of time. And then everyone in the room will go, wow, this is the kind of lawyer I want to have. This is someone who cares about the community, and this is the person I want, right? So how do we change this kind of behavior? And now just moving on, I can't remember, how long have I got? I'm okay. So this is my real question. Does money count value? And personally, I think the answer is no. I think money is a tool for markets and for trade. And money has a sort of value. It accounts for financial value. But real values are not fungible in the way that money is. The whole point of money is, with my money, I could buy eggs, or I could buy a house, or I could buy, I don't know, a piece of plastic rubbish that, frankly, a festival band that is a light for, 12 hours, and then you throw it in the bin. Like, all of these things have financial value, and most of them, far from having real value, they're destructive of real value. Real values are things like world peace, human health, biodiversity, healthy soils, yeah? And these are not fungible. I can't say this much world peace is worth this much biodiversity. All of these things need to be accounted for separately. And this is where I think the work of Art Brock, the idea of currency, seeing values, different sorts of value flow, and not focusing on money. To me, this is how we can account for value. And I don't think that this is such an outlandish idea. I mean, Subhata Dasgupta wrote an amazing paper called The Economics of Biodiversity. It was commissioned by the UK government. They obviously thought he was going to say something they would like, and I don't think he did. I think where he got to is basically nobody is doing the bookkeeping for planet Earth. Planet Earth ought to have a balance sheet. It ought to have an asset register. It ought to be the case that we know, who's taking what out of the earth, right? You just buy a bit of land and then you extract what you like. Nobody is doing the bookkeeping for planet Earth. And this is the key point that Subhata Dasgupta points out. I think he still probably thought the solution could be done with finances. I don't believe that. I think that each time we try to financialize an externality, like with carbon trading, we completely miss the point. If we think about carbon trading, it tells us nothing about the carbon in the atmosphere. It tells us nothing about global warming. It tells us nothing about who is doing the damage. It really tells us nothing useful at all. And many of the carbon trading schemes actually have been shown to do more damage than good. So, Kate Raworth is onto something, right? She's described the lovely donut, and that's where the financial economy needs to be. It needs to be not doing damage on the outside. It needs to be meeting the needs in the inside. She doesn't quite go far enough, because although it's, she has ways of thinking, how do we gather that data to understand where are we not meeting needs and where are we exceeding the planetary boundaries, she's not gone the next stage of saying we need to have currencies for these things, right? The financial economy is not enough to count things. We need currencies to help us see this stuff, the social capitals, the human health and well-being, knowledge, and I'm adding in here creativity. Knowledge is not enough. Without creativity, we cannot have adaptability. And without adaptability, we're not going to, really solve the problems that we have. Biodiversity, soil health, pollution, that's the planetary boundaries. That's the main thing she focuses on. But I would say extraction, as I was just saying. We need to do that bookkeeping of the asset register for planet Earth. And as well, another thing which is missing really from her diagram is the circular economy, in terms of we need to think of manufactured items as being a currency as well. Within our current system, all that matters is making stuff. Once it's produced, it's hit GDP, and then we don't care anymore. In fact, we have to make the next thing to hit GDP again. And actually what we need to do is to understand that the care and maintenance of manufactured products is what really matters. So yeah, those are the things we should be counting. Then I'd like to go one stage further and say, we have allowed money and the market to become the de facto governance system for planet Earth. Basically, money determines who can do what, not a rule book. We try here and there to have a few little rules around the edges to stop the worst excesses. But basically, if you're Microsoft, you can do what the hell you like, and you can then take governments to court if you didn't like how they impacted on your business model. And there is very little power apart from through money. Within a market, everybody, it's based on trade, and every trade you have to kind of make a little bit extra, right? Because you've got to then keep going, and it's like even just me. If I were just, I don't know, procuring something and giving it to you, I would need to charge a little bit extra on top of what I bought and then what I sold it to you at, because, well, one, my justification would be I did the work of finding that thing, and anyway, I've got to buy my food, right? So trade is always extractive of value, no matter how wonderful the money system behind it. For me, trade is a problem. Cooperatives are a business. I tried to come up with the idea of a non-profit cooperative. I was talking to Cooperatives UK about it, and they're very clear. No, it has to be a business to be a co-op, right? So all trade is basically based on competition rather than collaboration. Within our current system, poor humans have less power, and non-humans have no power at all. So we need to govern planet Earth. Am I running out of time? Okay. We need to govern planet Earth not through money and through a market. We need to govern planet Earth as a commons, because it is a commons, right? I think we can all agree there's one planet Earth, and we all need to share it, and we need to steward it for the future. I think that, if we think about what Elinor Ostrom was talking about, that's basically a commons, right? The only problem is that the rules that Elinor Ostrom cleverly managed to uncover, if you like, for what makes a commons work, it's very difficult to make those work at a post-Dunbar number, especially a number like, what's our population? I don't know, 9 billion or whatever. This is really tricky, because Elinor says everyone has to collaborate on the rules. And then we need systems to see breaches of the rules, and we need to be able to sanction people. It's like, wow. If we think of this as a global problem to manage the commons of planet Earth, this is huge. And it has to go a bit further than Elinor Ostrom, because as well we need to collaborate on what the aims are. Is the aim to really think about biodiversity, human health, and peace? Are those our top three aims? Or maybe there are some different aims, right? But we need to collaborate on those. This is the work that we need to be doing. If we're going to solve the meta crisis, we need to be working on the governance system for planet Earth and not leaving it to a market. And I don't know, sometimes I think Web3 is the answer, and quadratic voting, and who knows, there isn't time to go into it here. And just to finish with, I have a lot of respect for everybody who's working in this field. There's a lot of deep systems thinking that's going on. Systems thinking is a great thing, right? In terms of us trying to understand and design something better. However, it's a very left brain approach, really, in terms of how Ian McGilchrist might type this sort of thought. And here's the problem. We're trying to design a new economic system. Is it a complicated thing, or is it a complex thing? Now, a complicated thing is something like, how do I send a rocket to the moon, right? And a complicated thing needs experts, lots of different experts, material scientists and astrophysicists and whatever, and we get them all in the room, we give them the money and the materials they need, and within 10 years they'll get a rocket on the moon. Our current meta crisis is not a complicated problem, it's a highly complex problem. Highly complex problems, number one, they're very difficult to even agree what the problem is. Is the problem peace first, or is it that no, it's not? Well, if we just sorted out actually a circular economy first that wasn't extractive, then we could, oh no, but before we can do that we need to educate loads of people, so it's very difficult to decide what the problem is. It's even harder to agree what the solution is. and then to try and implement that solution is very, very difficult. So these are complex problems. They need not experts. It needs everybody. We need to take everybody with us on this. And worse than that, anything we design is another kind of very finite system, which is going to it's going to have the same problems that money has got. We have to devise solutions that are able to adapt and evolve. Right? That's what life does. Life evolves and adapts to the next thing. And we're not very good at designing systems that evolve. I think that is all I had to say. I thank you very much for listening.